All right, who has a question? I did see a hand. What's up, Cindy? How you doing, friend? Anybody else in here from a clinical department in the School of Medicine? You got a hot mess is what you have. So it is different for you guys. So for your 1.7s, okay, so anything in that UNCSP range, Patsy is developing a report. I think it's already out there on the school reports tab for you guys. Because for you guys, every time you have a different location that comes to that Epic feed, you've got a different source. I mean, because that source is based on location. So there is no way to tie all those revenue sources back to expense, because expense is coming in at the department, and then you got all that revenue coming in all over the place. And so they're working on a particular report just for FP. It'll be a SAS report, so that'll be in SAS. You don't want this in InfoPorte. You're talking, it is massive, Cindy. I mean, you know this. It's massive, yeah. Yeah, so it's there, but that, and in fact, there is, if you go to the school reports tab, ask Lauren, she can give you access to that. There is a faculty physician's report on that page, and that's what you need to use. Honestly, I don't know exactly how it works. I haven't used it. I just know that they have it out there for you guys, for the, yeah. So Pam, for you guys too. So, and anybody, I think that's it for School of Clinical. Yeah. Hey, Dan. Good. Yes. Wow. Wild card. Okay. So Dan was saying on the transactions tab now, you have the ability in the account search field to put multiple accounts together. You separate them with a column and it'll pull those back. So he's asking for a range. I know that they are working on a wild card, which would accommodate that. So, 515% would give you all your benefits. And it's going to be a trailing wild card, so you put in that first number and then it'll grab whatever afterwards. I can't remember. Susan, do you remember if that's 6.4? I saw it on that list in Basecamp, but I don't. It might be, it's either 6.4 or 6.5. So with 6.4 coming out middle of the month, and you can expect 6.5 about 4 weeks after that. So, I mean, that's rough, but that's kind of about how long things have been taken. Do you have a question, ma'am? Hey, Bob.
I have one question, and it's silly, so I feel bad I got to ask you. But reconciliation is one thing, and reporting is something different.
Yeah. So
reporting to a PI or reporting to a senator director is
right.
Different than just reconciling.
Yes.
And we talked a lot about freezing encumbrances and timing and when the monthly parties. I recognize that we can reconcile these from the time. How do we know when we can report on a month that gives us what it's going to be the final number for that month? And how do we use the technology we've got here to generate a report that is user-friendly and easily read and understood?
Okay, so there's two questions there. So Barbara's first question is, if we're having to provide reporting, when can we know that the month is really closed and nothing else is going to happen and these are our numbers, right, regardless of what's happening on the pre-encumbrances and the encumbrances right now. So you honestly, right now, you got to wait for that email. So there's the email that's been coming out through, I call them the Janet Kelly Scholl emails because, Janet sends all of those. And so they come out to the University Business Managers listserv, and I'm not even sure who else. But you would have to wait for that. Now, in all likelihood, so I think December just closed. There's still work. Nothing's going to change in January. But if you're providing an official report, you just want to be really, really super double extra sure. And so you would wait until you got that notification. It's this long. We'll get back to the point where we close, and 5 business days later, we've got our reports and they're done, right? Well, we will get back to that point. But until then, you're going to want to wait until you have that email saying that they've booked everything and they've reported out to the state and it's been accepted, okay? All right, so that's one thing. How do you get better reporting in something that people understand? So a lot has happened on if you're talking particularly with PIs and with grants. And that's the kind of thing that most often has to get reported out. You don't tend to spend a lot of time sending out reports on your state dollars to faculty members, right? Or, I mean, maybe to your dean or something, but, you know, it's really grants that you have to digest and make sense for people. So there are a lot of new features on the grant profile page, so the tab in InfoPorte. That's a life-to-date amount. You can then click on any project there and it will take you to the grant details page, which is getting beefed up with a lot more information, which I think would help with those reporting things. Have you guys heard of the financial reporting task force? There have been some emails sent out about this group of representatives from around campus who are trying to figure out, you know, what are the major pain points, what are the things that are going to kill us at year end, you know, what do we have to do business. And there is an offshoot of that that's working on grants and getting better reporting. So, you know, right now it's really hard to do it in OTR, right? And so they're working on that. They've got a list of these things that they're working on to get those grants reporting out. That is very high priority. I mean, it really is. We're talking, you know, Vanessa, I was in a meeting with her, I think it was day before yesterday or yesterday, and she said that grants are an $800 million revenue stream at this university. That's way more than state funds. Well, I don't know if it is or not, but it's a lot of money, right? And so, you know, it's a high priority. So wait, you put that and then beg the mercy of the PI who you're reporting to. So, you know, I know. Here's the deal. When you know, part of the problem with grants, you can see what you've spent, but you've got problems with encumbrances, right? You don't know what you've got left because our personnel encumbrances are all over the place. So let me deliver, let me bring you flowers and then also put a dagger in your back. So they are working on personnel encumbrances because they're a hot mess, right? There are some problems with actuals, so you guys probably know this. The payroll, several of the biweekly and monthly payrolls back to, I think, sometime in December, misallocated funding across, basically what happened was we turned on encumbrances and PeopleSoft had this deliver functionality and it kicked it in and nobody knew it was going to kick it in. And it went in and it started taking and putting funding in places where it shouldn't. You may not have even noticed this because we're talking like $5. I mean, we're not talking big amounts. They didn't go and like move, you know, somebody who was making $200,000 and you know, move $40,000 off into a place. We're talking, in some cases, literal pennies, like 2 cents, 4 cents, 6 cents. So those things have to get fixed so that you can reconcile to the penny. So they are fixing, they're getting that fixed. They expect to have that fixed by the end of the month, okay, so that they're researching it, tracking it. They're going to put a process through so that you guys don't have to go back and fix it. It will get fixed. And then once that happens, then, and they have payroll corrected, then, and while this is all happening, they're doing the work on encumbrances for multi-year grants, trying to find a temporary solution to help folks with the multi-year grant. So all of this is kind of, some of these things have to happen, not necessarily that they're dependent on each other, but all of those things have to come into place for you to have an accurate view. So here's what they're going to do on personnel encumbrances. So for personnel encumbrances, because they are just a mess, mostly on grants, but in other places too, they are going to take personnel encumbrances out of Connect Carolina, okay? So when you go and you look at your ledger roll-up, it's going to say you have $500,000 available, and you're going to be like, that looks pretty sweet, but there will be no personnel encumbered in that amount, all right? And so you got to know that that's not a real number. It's right as far as it reflects what's in Connect Carolina, but it's not a real number. What they're doing is they're providing a report in InfoPorte called a salary projection report. The salary projection report will be based on the last payroll. So if it's biweekly, you know, it'll be biweekly or monthly for your EPA folks. It's a dynamic report, so every time we get paid biweekly or monthly, it'll update. And what it does is it looks at that last salary, the last amount that that person was paid, and it projects that amount through the end of the fiscal year to give you a balance on your encumbrances. That's great for state, F&A, and trust funds, which budget and do all of their work through the end of the fiscal year. It's not a lot of help, if any, with grants. So, it is a temporary fix that will get us some of the way, but there are still big issues around grants. There is reporting coming that will absolutely help you. That will not take care of those encumbrance issues, okay? And so, in all honesty, I mean, I've not been tasked with being the person to deliver this, so I'm just, you know, somebody else can be more eloquent and can tell you different things, but I'm just kind of telling you what I know. But, you know, it is what we're going to have through the end of the fiscal year. And while they work on that permanent solution for next year, if you're dealing with grants, yeah, you really are. So, and I do, I hate it for you. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Right. They can be, but they're asking that you just not do any retros right now, regardless of the time frame, because all these things need to get corrected, and so there's just a lot of things that need to be fixed. So instead of, you know, don't glom on right now, right? Fix what's right, so wait till everything gets fixed. So don't do any retros right now. You know, that said, if you've got somebody whose funding is changing 3/1, go ahead and change it. That's not a retro. We haven't had March payroll yet. I mean, you can go ahead and make, even if it was, you know, supposed to have changed as of November 1st, right? Well, go ahead and fix it for March 1st forward. That way you only have 4 months worth of stuff you got to change, not all the way back. You know what I mean? Then you just got to change November through February. All right? So you can go ahead, you can do, you know, current dated and future dated funding swaps, but just wait on all retros. So again, that comes out in those Janet Kelly Scholl emails, you know, tend to get those things forwarded to us. And it's Dennis Press and Fran Dykstra who are sort of leading that effort. And the email would come from Janet, you know, for them. So wait on that. Right. Right. You can, because you can doesn't mean you should. Okay? So don't. You shouldn't. Okay. Susan, were you going to say something? The wild card. So the wild card is 6.5, Dan. Okay. Yes. So yeah, a little bit. So there's going to be a tab. There's a cost code report tab, and you'll go to that tab, and there'll be one for Connect Carolina cost codes and one for InfoPorte cost codes. They're also working on a report what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll be able to look at the budget on those. This is where people are doing budget on cost codes. So you have a way in Connect Carolina to create a budget on a particular cost code, and regardless of what fund it's spent on, you can track a budget on that cost code. So you'll be able to see that. There'll be like a ledger roll-up screen for the cost code. Uh-huh. So you'll be able to go in and pull up your cost codes that way. Yes, that's right. That's right. 6.4. So a few weeks. Yes. So I have seen it, but I saw it when they wanted to have it out in the last version, but it just wasn't ready yet. So I saw it then. So I don't know how much it's changing. Probably not dramatically, but that's the idea. Program will be in there too, because we need that same reporting on program that we don't really have right now that we need for cost codes, and so program will be in there too. Yes. You can. So if you, what she asked was if you forget to put a cost code on a transaction when you're entering it in Connect Carolina, can you enter that cost code on the transaction in InfoPorte? And you can. You have to have access to do that. So you have to request cost code access, and there are different types of cost code access that you have. You would have to request that, and then you can go in and put, add that cost code to it. Yeah, you might not have the access. Yeah. Yeah. So now the cost codes get created in InfoPorte based on a feed that comes out of Connect Carolina. So when the cost code is created in Connect Carolina, it then becomes available for tagging in InfoPorte. So if you have a new cost code, you would need to create that in Connect Carolina for it to be available in InfoPorte for you to tag with. Sure. Yeah, so if you need them and they're not in there, you will need to create them in Connect Carolina, and then they will show up in InfoPorte. So there's a process where you can submit requests for new chart fields. Like I think it's a help. Tell me, how do they do it? Is it a help ticket?
Yeah, I mean you can always submit a help ticket, and we'll tell you how to get it done or get it done.
Yeah.
And we can also follow up on.
Yeah.
North Carolina, we're looking at that functionality.
So I can't remember exactly the process for the new chart fields, but if you help ticket it, they'll be able to tell you what that process is. But if you've got 100 of them that need to be created, they'll have to be created in Connect Carolina, and then they'll be available to you in InfoPorte. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Will we be able to go back and put program codes in? No. No. And the reason for that is because we budget by program, and we have to report to the state and to other organizations by program. We don't track cost code spending at a university level. That's internal. And so if you go and you start changing your numbers on program and your kind of like internal system versus what the university has, there's a problem there. So no, not on program. What else? Yes, ma'am.
I know it's a chart with the cost, but it actually nowhere does it tell you what month you went up. I mean, what month it went up.
So she says the ledger roll-up, it doesn't tell you what month it went up to. So if you leave the accounting period blank, it's year to date. Okay, so it's 7/1 through the previous day's business in Connect Carolina. If you choose an accounting period, then it's through that accounting period.
Right, but either way, it does not tell you what that period is.
What do you mean it doesn't tell you what it is?
Right, you've got for the department where you start doing some costs. I'm running them each month up to that point. But you can't see that.
And so if you export it to a PDF, the last page is called the parameters page, and that lists all of the accounting periods and all of the parameters selected. So when you export it to a PDF, it will tell you every single filter that you've used to get that data. That's on the parameters page, which is the last page of the PDF. Okay. This is your last one, Barbara.
If you have F&A dollars that actually a program page is running after go live,
Yep.
but you need to go back now and be able to tag those transactions, you cannot do that?
So Barbara said if you have F&A dollars that are tracked with a program after go live, how do you get that program on those transactions? You got to do correcting journals. So you got to take it from a chart field string that doesn't have program to a chart field string that does.
What I'm talking about is if I took the research office research project, and so it would have had 2 or 3 years worth of history already by transaction. So we would have to go back and capture every single one of them.
If you want to put program on those transactions, you have to do a correcting journal to move it off of the chart field string without the program onto the chart field string with the program. There you go. So if you're trying, but don't do that. Listen, use a little bit, think about this for a second, people, all right? Not to pick on you, Barbara, but think about this for a second. You don't have to do that. you might have 2 years worth of transactions, but one, those are not in InfoPorte for you to do anything with, okay? All right, if you've got those and you know that there's a dollar amount that was on each program, put it in a spreadsheet, keep the amount, add it to what you have this year, and then going forward, it'll always be used. You'll always use program, okay? Your things done, it doesn't have to be piecemeal forever. We just have to piecemeal stuff for now. Do you understand me? Because we got our first quarter that was in a completely different system. I mean, have you looked at those transactions in InfoPorte for July, August, and September? Nonsense, right? They're only there so you can have amounts. They were all brought over in a massive journal feed. Most of them look exactly the same except the department number. Okay? They're there so we can have a number, so that we can have a balance, right? So if you need to get cost codes on those 3 months, or you need to get program on those 3 months, or even before that, just figure out what the total should be for that program, what the total should be for that cost code. First quarter, we spent $10,000. Last 3 quarters, we spent $50,000. I'm adding 10 to 50. That gives me $60,000. It's ugly for FY15, but for FY16, it'll be fine, right? Now, everybody understands, okay, that this year has to be piecemealed, all right? So our reporting is not expected to be as clean as it was before, all right? As long as you can tie those numbers back in whatever way you need to do it, that's fine. You don't have to make everything match in Connect Carolina for the whole year, all right? I mean, think about that. All right, listen, it's 12:35. I have a few minutes. I'm happy to stay and answer some more questions if you have them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.